and we're just waiting for things to kind of get going here as we do every show. Welcome to the show. The buzzers are going off. We are going live. That is great news. And today's date is June 20th, 2019. And today is a bit of a somber day, more somber news. And, well, it's never fun hearing about this kind of stuff. And the American people do demand and want better. And what have we been listening to today is about Iran. And they shot down one of our warplanes. Yes, it was a drone, but it's still to be taken seriously. And quite frankly, I have some questions about this whole thing. I really do. So it's changed the program up a little bit for this evening. We were going to discuss more about our announcement, which we'll pick right back up on tomorrow, because we come nightly, and this is why we come nightly, so that when there are things that are more important, well, then we just have to keep that message going. And because we come nightly, and because we also have other ways to share information, ultimately speaking, we will get the message out. And that's what's most important. We have so many messages that are important to get out. So today is a crazy day if you've been paying attention to the news, and I'm sure you have been, and your people's candidate certainly has been, and we're going to be talking about it right up next.
Ever since election night 2016, the question has been whether Russia's attempt to influence the result helped Donald Trump win the White House.
Doubling down, the president in a new interview saying he would take help from a foreign government.
Now in a politically explosive new interview, the president has shocked Republicans and Democrats alike by suggesting that even today, if foreign agents offered him dirt on opponents, yes, he would accept that help.
If somebody called from a country, Norway, we have information on your opponent. Oh, I think I'd want to hear it.
You want that kind of interference in our elections?
It's not an interference. They have information. I think I'd take it.
The FBI director says that's what should happen.
The FBI director is wrong.
Democrats claim it's now open season on the integrity of America's elections.
The commander-in-chief would, in effect, give away the nation. It is really repulsive.
They fear the president is sowing chaos, just as he did with this infamous request 3 years ago.
Russia, if you're listening, I hope you're able to find the 30,000 emails that are missing.
Reacting to the new comments, the leader of the House appeared aghast.
Everybody in the country should be totally appalled by what the president said last night. Should be totally appalled.
In a tweet today, the president suggested he received intelligence from multiple foreign sources. I meet and talk to foreign governments every day. I just met with the Queen of England, UK, and the Prince of Wales, misspelling Wales in a way that would make a schoolboy blush, forcing him to delete the tweet. The president is claiming that everyone engages in dirty tricks, including those in Congress who are expressing outrage today, but who in fact relish so-called opposition research.
But you go and talk honestly to congressmen. They all do it. They always have. And that's the way it is. It's called Oppo research.
Those provocative comments are only strengthening the hand of young, fiery Democrats here on Capitol Hill who want to begin impeachment proceedings. But others are being more cautious, saying this is just bait from a president who wants his opponents to overreach. Robert Moore, News at 10, Washington.
This is honestly unbelievable. I can't believe he is saying he would take help from Norway or any other country given his past problems. I am not so worried about Russia and Trump collusion as much as I am worried that he would make such a reckless move in the first place, given the Mueller probe and the untold damage it has caused our country in terms of division, hatred, and more. This is simply not smart, like he says he is. In fact, it raises more questions about his judgment and his mental capacity, as well as his intentions and motivations. So one must ask if he is fully aware and doesn't care, or cares but doesn't know, or just simply don't care at all. And because it has to be one of those in this case, and that is just as truthful as it gets, and even my Trump supporter friends would admit that to me, not because I am partisan, I don't hate. So why am I saying this? Because it's the truth. This was at the Trump rally. Trump supporters began clashing with Trump protesters. No one seemed to really want to be there, in my view. Do you get what I mean? And that their effort seemed put on. But of course, you fake it until you actually make it, and it always turns real. What is it about the human condition that seeks this trouble? Well, is it trouble that we seek? Because I would disagree. I think we seek attention. Attention we should all have because we all matter. We are not treated like we matter right now. And we have purpose and value. And the best way to show that is by taking care of people, giving them a good education, and showing them what can be done through love and dedication, honesty and discipline. And you encourage them to find their passions and their faith and to live it out courageously. And that's it, my friends. You raise America by raising her spirits the same way you raise a child. And you raise her spirits by accepting she has one, teaching her she has one, and we all simply do.
Are you guys local? Are these guys local? Do you know if these guys are local, dude?
Amid increased tensions between Iran and the United States, Russian President Vladimir Putin warned the United States that military conflict with Iran would be catastrophe, and said that Iran was observing its commitments under the Iran nuclear deal. Speaking during his annual phone-in event, Putin said that he was concerned by the shooting down of an American drone by Iran this week and worried that the United States had not ruled out using military force against Iran in the ongoing crisis between the two countries. I will say it straight. It would be a catastrophe at a minimum for the region, Putin said, adding it could lead to new mass exodus of refugees. The Russian leader also said that he believed Iran was still complying with its commitments under the Iran nuclear deal agreed with by the United States under the Obama administration. In the past week, Iran has threatened to increase its enriched uranium stockpile beyond limits set by the deal in a bid to force European countries to help it manage sanctions reimposed after the United States withdrawal from the agreement. Russia is also a party to the deal and, like the other European countries, supports its continuation, provided Iran remains compliant. The comments came as Putin answered dozens of questions during the Direct Line show, a marathon telethon where he takes questions from ordinary people that has become an annual fixture of Putin's rule. This year, state television said it had received 1.5 million questions from Russians. The event went on for more than 4 hours. In previous years, Russians have asked Putin to help with fixing potholed roads, getting pensions, backed payments to choosing a new puppy. A response from the president on television can cause regional officials worried about embarrassment the president to leap into action. This year, the questions and Putin's prepped answers focused on everyday difficulties, with the president signaling he understood Russia's economy was struggling and that he is increasing growth ought to be the country's top priority. Putin blamed some of the problems on Western sanctions, saying that they had cost Russia $50 billion and claimed that the country's economy was beginning to grow again. Putin said his focus will be on the economy, on new rails, and wanted to use large national projects to achieve that. The best of Vladimir Putin's responses from his annual marathon call-in show is what they're calling this thing, by the way, folks. And so listen, Putin said his focus was being put onto the economy, on new rails, and wanted to use large national projects to achieve that. You have to wonder what he's talking about. It's not very specific, is it? And a lot of our politicians talk in the same way. Your Happy Healer for president would never talk like that because our problems are too real and the American people have been so patient in their wait for this promise to be fulfilled. And that's why I am running. I assure you, he is not talking about doing for the Russian people what I am talking about doing for the American people. That we know. Their economy is having too many problems. Their people are not Americans, are they? The American ingenuity is behind the American success story. That's why we have to keep that success going by reinvigorating the American spirit. It also plays on a much older Russian tradition of ordinary people petitioning the Tsar to solve their problems. One such demonstration this year came when Putin announced that 2 orca and 6 beluga whales had been released from so-called whale jails in Russia's Far East. Dozens of whales were being held in unsanitary conditions in tanks by poachers who intended to illegally sell them. The case was attracting global attention, but had also been notable for authorities seemingly unable to solve it, even after the Kremlin signaled that the animals should be released. Putin also seemed to make a careful acknowledgement of the existence of popular anger that has sparked up in recent times in a series of largely local issue projects that have captured wide attention on the Russian internet. Last month, there has been unusual protest in several towns near Moscow over plans to divert city garbages. These are the kinds of plans that they're talking about, folks. That's why people are protesting. Moscow over plans to divert the city's garbage, and in June, authorities were forced to make rare reversals in dropping charges against a prominent investigative journalist who police had tried to crudely frame by planting drugs on him. And you know that happens in the United States as well. Putin made reference to both and the other high-profile incidents, acknowledging the problem but downplayed them, saying the garbage that it was long time a problem, and noting it was partly because Russia was now a consumer society. In a careful, calibrated moment, Putin was asked, what was he ashamed of? He replied by telling a story from his travels in the early years of his presidency when he met an elderly woman who he said had fallen on her knees in front of him and handed him a paper petition. Putin said he had given the paper to an aide, but it had later been lost. I will never forget it, and I am ashamed about it now, Putin said, his voice shaking. He said he tried to resolve any problems that Russians asked him. So this is how savvy politicians in Russia are. This is how savvy Putin is. I assure you, Putin is a lot more savvy than our president. Our president loves America. Our president is not Putin. And now you have Putin telling the United States what to do when it concerns Iran. Well, we have to be careful with that. That's very certain. And the way that Donald Trump has been handling himself when it comes to Iran, well, it's just so unacceptable. The last thing we all need to happen is a war. The Iranian people, the Iranian leadership, in their faith, death is a good thing. We have to understand where they come from if we are ever to be successful in this world, because we have to mitigate the dangers around the world. Even religious scholars would tell you they suspect that Iran would be the one to bring in a catastrophic war designed to bring in end of days. It takes a president who knows these facts about the psyche of the individual in Iran, who they are, in order to lead our country, the United States of America, in a tricky and complicated world. It takes a smart individual somebody who can reflect and look and understand and know how things work. And that's why your happy healer is running for president of the United States, because quite frankly, there are no other candidates with the vision. They're all blind. They're blind with their own hate, their own triggers, their own greed, and their own desire for power. But your happy healer is ever more focused on what needs to get done. We have a certain solid and steady strength that is provided by our faith in our Creator, and that is all we will ever need. As a person, all I want to be to America is America's great son, doing great work for each other and loving and being an American. And each one of us would strive to do the same thing, and America would be better off for it. We need to look at these bad days and see them as more fuel to move on into the world we all want to live in, a world where we take care of each other, healthcare is taken care of, our elderly are taken care of, our young are looked after, our middle-aged are taken care of. All people matter. And we just can't say that's true right now, but in a Happy Healer presidency, you will. If you haven't already donated to the campaign or pledged your support, make sure you go right now to www.happyhealerforpresident.com and pledge your support, donate, and get involved. My name is Keith Landy, and I'm running for president for the Democratic nomination 2020. All right, folks. Welcome back. And it's great to have you here.
Months.
Okay.
We're trying to collect
So I want
intelligence
you to listen
make
to this,
informed
and I'm going to
decisions.
stick out with you.
We had told the Iranians before they shot the drone down that if you engage
This
against
is
American
Senator
personnel
Lindsey
or
Graham.
assets, you do so at your own peril. The president does not want a war with Iran or anybody else, but he is the commander-in-chief. And so when Abe was asked by the president, the prime minister of Japan, to deliver a message to the Iranians, let's talk, not only was he rebuffed, they attacked a Japanese ship while the Japanese prime minister is delivering a message from the American president, let's see if we can negotiate. So that tells me all I need to know about the Iranian regime and negotiating. So I talked to the president this morning. I'm going to meet him this afternoon.
Senator, he tweets that Iran made a big mistake.
They made a big mistake by shooting our drone down.
Is that provocative in and of itself to tweet that?
No, what's provocative is to shoot the drone down. What's provocative is to blow up a Japanese oil tanker with a Japanese prime minister in your office trying to start negotiations with the United States. What's provocative is having your proxies shoot into Saudi Arabia. Trump's not the problem. So here's the way this is headed. If they start enrichment at the levels they're talking about in a few days, Israel over time will have to respond. There's one nation on the planet that's not going to give the Iranians a pass on their nuclear program. That's Israel. Israel will, as a last resort, attack to prevent a nuclear-armed Iran. We will come to their aid. Here's what they're trying to do. They're trying to break our will, intimidate us to come to the negotiating table. The president made an offer to negotiate. The response was to attack a Japanese tanker, the emissary of the person chosen to deliver the offer. And last night they shot down a drone. So here's what Iran needs to get ready for. Severe pain inside their country. That their capabilities pale in comparison to ours. We're not going to let them disrupt navigation of the seas, attack our allies and U.S. interests without paying a price. So if they're itching for a fight, they're going to get one.
Including militarily?
All right, so you hear where they're going with that, right? If you're itching for a fight, then you're going to get one. So we got to be paying attention to this, guys. Definitely now it's time to pay attention, okay? There's no kidding around here. This is how Americans die. This is how we get put behind every time. This is how they kill our dreams. And we just have to focus. Now, sometimes there's situations where we have to take military action. But we don't want to create those actions. We don't want to do anything that pushes us in that way. Especially when you know the greatest mission of really all of humanity in the next 20 years, 10 years, 5 years is making this ascension. It's a higher level order of living. Otherwise, we won't make it beyond another 100 years. It's not possible. You already see what's happening with 8 billion people, just shy of. Think about that. Or more. I think we're actually higher than that now. So we have to be realistic and have the threats that are so real on the mind of the president, and we have to realize that that person is stable. And Donald Trump is not stable. I mean, the guy is not much different than a lot of people. But he's not aware of something. I don't know what it is, and I don't think many people do. But the point is he's not aware of something, or he's doing something wrong, and it's leading to the effects that we're getting. You know, you have to be in that position almost to know what is possible. I mean, I might know something that's possible if I knew all of the elements about it that Donald Trump would never know because he doesn't look deep enough, or he doesn't have that ingenuity, or maybe he's relying on somebody else to tell him. But what I'm really concerned about is that he doesn't really seem to have these answers. And here's what I'm going to go ahead and hold up. This is what I wrote today. It changed the process of the show. We were actually going to have a slightly different show today, and that show will be for more later on. I had to put it back because this is the question right here. Is America safe? We have Iran. We have China. We have Russia. We have North Korea. Okay? That's no small measure of a problem. On the contrary, that's a large measure. That's 4 countries. And these are problems that have been sort of brewing for a long time. But no president before aimed to get as much as Trump is trying to get done as quick as he's trying to do it. And I think it's a little bit reckless given the state of our country right now and how divided it is. So I'd have to say I do have to question that brilliance a little bit. It feels like you're teetering on the cliff and you don't need to be, but that you're there because you're getting all the best. The fruits are there, you know, you're closest to the water, but the very moment you lose your footing, you're down. So why would you go there if you have a weak knee? And the fact that this country is not united is so much more than a weak knee, because we are so divided and we are going through our own problem. I mean, add to this the civil war that America's heading towards. Any number of these things can cause a catastrophe in America. You know, when you talk to Americans, you know what they tell you? And I'm going to have a lot of anecdotes talking to Americans, aren't they? You know what they tell you? They tell you that they're worried for their families. Like I am. Like I'm worried for my nephews and my nieces, my sisters and brothers, and you guys. I love you guys. I love myself. That's why I'm running. That's why when you see these candidates who are just running and it's born out of their own ambition, or it's born out of their agenda or their hate, can you believe it? Some people get so hateful and then they run. And angry is not hateful. You will see your happy healer get angry. And yes, he is a strong, steadfast leader, but he does not just become hateful. We have to channel positive energies to make great things happen. And let's add it. Civil war. Because that's a big one. That is a big one. We're heading down that road. There seems to be no brakes. And think about it. Whether you get a Democrat in or whether you have Trump. And I say a Democrat, I exclude myself from that. You already see the way your happy healer is running. He's running to be the kind of country that we all want right from the start. There is no angling of, oh, well, I have to win the nomination. If we have to play like that, then we're already losing. That's why I'm going to Trump people now. Well, so happens Biden is doing it, except for Biden is doing it for the wrong reasons. He's doing it so he could try and remain the front runner. It's all tactics. It's not born out of genuine concern for this country. And I'm just focused on Trump because he's the current president right now. And we have serious issues that we're dealing with. And then there are the Democrats. And you just heard how I spoke of them. I do not feel very highly of the Democratic Party right now. I feel highly of the American people. And I don't feel highly of the Republican Party right now. I just feel highly of the American people and all Democrats, all Republicans, independents, and in between. I am running as a Democrat because I want to win. It's important that these ideas, the problems that we face, demand that we have ideas that really work and that we present from the very beginning those ideas in a way that is honest and truthful to our intent. So, I say, I'm running for president of the United States. We're going to be working on X, Y, and Z. That is what we're doing. And that's why I come out the way I come out and I make these bold statements. And I just a moment ago said we're focused on Trump, and that is why we're focused on Trump. So let the other guys play the politics. I'm going to always stay focused on what's important, because that's my race. That's my reason for running, and because you matter, and you will always matter. Well, I approach you as your presidential candidate because we have some serious problems and we need serious solutions. I approach you as a happy healer because we have so many broken hearts and we need a happy healer to mend those hearts. That everybody should be able to have a mended heart, that everybody should be able to be happy, and that we need coping mechanisms to be able to deal, think about it, to deal with these threats, right? That's why your president happy healer would make a great president. I don't get triggered. Not because, you think, wow, you don't get triggered, things don't bother you. Well, no, they bother you. You get upset, or like not upset, but yeah, I guess you do. But you don't ever get hateful. Does that make sense? Because you can get upset, like mad at certain situations, or, that's, I think, motivation. If you remove the hate. You get what I'm saying? It's just pure motivation. In fact, you might have never experienced it if you have hate in your heart. So as your happy healer, I say, work on that. Get rid of the hate in your heart. And all of us, even I, still have hate in my heart. We have to always work on that because of the human condition. It's the human condition that demands that we work on our hearts to get that hate lower and lower, and each time we get it more lower. And so that's a quest that never ends. And you better believe I'll be your inspirer in chief. Remember, before I was the president, I was the happy healer. And, well, it becoming the happy healer to save my own life first. So that's the story of the happy healer. And that's why I'm such a dork. I had to sort of bring it out to stay alive. And I just know how all of us are dealing with in these times. So tough. Whether it's drug addiction, or whether it's financial problems, or a combination of both, or lack of work, or too much work. You don't have any time for yourself, or whatever the situation is. No candidate can promise you to solve all of your problems, but one thing that a good candidate can promise you is this, and that is you will get honesty, you will get pure knowledge of things that actually work, and the knowledge comes from systems that were tested, in other words, we're going in and we're analyzing. And that's the process. You have to be very analytical in your approach. And so that's what I do. I learn. I do my best to understand where other people are coming from so that we can solve those issues. And sanity. People don't appreciate sometimes the sanity until you need it the most. And you have to be a steadfast character to be president of the United States. You have to be able to take on anything and everything. And let me tell you something. Somebody who can take on anything and everything are people who have been through hard times. Even average Americans really have been. There is a reason why we are, okay, granted, we're biased when we say we're the greatest country in the world, but, well, seems like everyone else says it too. And if you just think about it, we're not doing nearly what we can be doing. And that's why people are so discombobulated, so upset. Trump capitalized on that. Don't you know? Trump has that capitalistic mind. He's seen the opportunity. Don't you know? I know that. I've done business for a long time. I also have a capitalistic mind. I think it's disgusting. And I think that it's part of what led me to my depression and ultimately drug addiction and all the other crap that comes with that. We have to learn from our mistakes. We have to improve our lives. We have to be honest about who we are, about the good things and the bad things. And we have to teach others, because in our imperfections is when we get more perfect. And that when we tried to be perfect is when we became even more clumsy. And that if we had only started out doing what we should have started doing first, and that is loving, then that everything would have gone fine. And it was that the love. It was the love that was perfect. And we failed on that. It only takes looking around to see that now. But yet what brings you out of situations like this that we're in? We're dealing with Iran, China, Russia, North Korea, and an enemy within ourselves. The impending civil war, as I call it. Well, the soft civil war is already underway. If there were clear battle lines, don't you know there would be skirmishes already, folks? Come on, I know you know that. Don't you know if there were clear battle lines, there would already be explosions, bombings? You ought to thank God there isn't. And the fact is, that doesn't matter. We can still end up somewhere so bad. So we have to be aware. That's all. And that's what I say. Don't be so scared of the truth. The truth is fine. The truth actually sets you free. Because all you got to know, and here's what I know, and I know it to be true with my heart. I know that God exists. I know that. And for me, I know that. Okay? Now, I'm not telling you how to believe. You could believe how you wish. But I will tell you this. Believing in a creator is not nuts. It's not a mental illness. And that when you understand the nature of our reality, our world as it is, and you have faith in our creator, when it comes to some of the largest things in life, and that's mostly life and death, and it comes to the individual themselves, not speaking in terms of our nation, I really think that the biggest moments are really at that hour of death, you know? You really gain so much perspective right then. Right then. So much makes so much sense right then. And let me tell you, we have so many reasons. And I'm going to be covering on some of this stuff too, because I almost think like the American people need a little bit of like positive influence in their minds. And so that's why I'm the Happy Healer. And I also feel like the American people need this positive influence to help, and that's why I do media, really, to help reshape the mind a bit, to help you reshape your own mind. I had to reshape my own mind. You have to, guys, we have to shape our minds. Look at what's happening in the world. This is from chaos. We have to shape our minds. You shape it with love. Love shapes it. Just shape it with love. You don't even need, it's written, God wrote those rules on your heart. It's so simple. It is so completely simple. And so we're going to be able to have these opportunities to talk about that. But I just want to say right plainly before we end the show, because time is running thin, and that is that when it comes to Iran, I think that Trump may have caused some of, I think he had to deal with some aspects and some realities, but I think whereas I would have done a lot of the same things he did, I wouldn't have been in the same area he is. Because instead of just being strong and quiet, which is how you need to be with people who love to be heard, who love to be loud, and who are hoping to get more attention for their cause, and who are hoping to die for their cause. You can't, and they're not all like that, by the way. They're not all like that. This is the religion in some regards, okay? So you just have to be aware of that. This is just education tells you this much. You know the difference. And what I'm going to say is that we have to respect everybody. Truths are truths. There's good people and there's bad people. We know this. Everybody has the capacity to be good. I believe that in my whole of hearts. Everybody does. And so we'll just have to recognize the truth and then work to make people good. And that's what we do. And it works when we do it well. And that's how we're going to grow this country in a positive way. And when we're dealing with issues like the one we're dealing with now with Iran, that seems to be created a bit. I'm going to pull this jacket off. Yeah. So we've seen how Donald Trump was talking about this, and he doesn't really have a plan, I don't think, when he's doing these things. You know, nobody's in his head, so you got to have a lot of faith, but you got to be able to at least see some truth and put it all together and have a timeline of truth in your head and realize the difference between what is truth and what is hyperbole or whatever, what have you. I don't use hyperbole. I just say what is truth and what is probability. That's it. Because you don't want time to pass something that was probability than to have been remembered as truth. So be careful, right? This is the kind of stuff that Trump gets in trouble with, to be honest. I'm just breaking it down. I'm trying to break it down in a way that I could see that it's not even because people get mad, his supporters. How dare you say something bad? I don't think he does it on purpose. We all know that. And that's what his Trump supporters are trying to say. They're not trying to say, oh, he's lying on purpose. So they're going to come at you back every time. In Trump's head, the guy is like having several streams of thought going, and they're actually not coinciding. And some of them are not working all together. And that's what's scary. And we all have several streams of thoughts going. And you could tell when this happens because he becomes dumbstruck. And sometimes at those moments is when he says the most bizarre things. And because he doesn't have the humility to step back from them, he stands firm. So even if what he just said was a mistake, now it's his new policy. This is the kind of stuff ultimately from Trump I worry about. And as president of the United States, when you're stable and steady, you don't do that. Again, this is not a bashing Trump session. This is a truth session. I voted for Trump, and I love Trump, and I love everyone. And quite frankly, Trump might possibly be better off even than the Democrats, because they also are just completely political in all of their thinking, and everything that they're doing is just so completely wrong for America. And to go in the direction of the globalism, what about Americans, the poorest ones? What about them? You can't supply for everybody in the world and supply for them too. So you got to make your choices, and you have to choose Americans first. Americans are not first now. Just some Americans are. The rich Americans. But if you're the ones who are just sweating every day, having to work 80 hours to get by, oh no, this is not your dream. You never asked for this dream. And surely your parents who also work like that, and their parents, nope, was never their dream either. You know, success skips generations, and sometimes it skips a lot of them before it gets one. You know, it's turning out more billionaires now than ever before. And the American people are virtually suffering on a level now that's worse than in the 70s. How is that when everything has virtually gotten better? Cars gotten better. Everything. Technology. You name it. I have my drone. I can fly it through the trees. It's so amazing. And yet here we live in this reality where we're just not taken care of. The reality they made for us. But that's what we're talking about, folks. We change our minds, we change our reality, we change our perception, we change our reality, and we change our atmosphere. We put love in it, we put truth, and we deal with things with courage. Safe places are a dangerous thing. This campaign is about free speech. We have to have free speech. We have to. Otherwise, the people will never be heard. It'll only be the right people. And if that's the kind of society you want to live in, you're going to fail with the American people and you will lose. This is a country founded on its freedoms. And I remember the Democratic Party has always been about that. So my goal is to help bring the Democratic Party back to a more freedom stance. Freedom with speech, freedom with all of these things. And we already have Facebook listed on our site as one of those huge offenders. And they're not the only ones. You have YouTube, and many creators can tell you. Talk to the people who make great content, who love making content, and just they're like your happy healer. And they are all going to tell you the same thing. Facebook, YouTube, they're just so unfair. The average person who doesn't realize that, because they're not outputting all this content, they don't see it as much. Every once in a while, oh, they took my post down, but you live with it. Let me tell you, they're shaping your minds. Make no mistake about it, because the creators, the people that are writing the content that you're reading and that you're consuming, it's not a world where we face the oncoming truth and we're just arbitrary about how we, you're not arbitrary, just whatever. You just deal with the truth as it comes, and you apply what tools are required to deal with that truth. That is an honest approach. These guys are not doing that. What they're doing is they're saying, this is what we want the truth to be. Let's go there and let's program them to get us there. That's not right. And so that's what my campaign is about. And so, folks, be strong. Be strong. Don't let this world tear you down. We have a lot of hate going on right now. We have a lot of people that are feeling like they're having their legs cut out from them. But you just have to be strong. Trust me, we're going to better places. We all are going to better places together. You got to trust your happy healer in this. And you have to be as vocal as ever for the right reasons. You have to be loving. You have to push the truth. It doesn't matter. If you push one person in the right direction, you did your job. And for my supporters, what I ask for, and I ask for this quite urgently because we need this, and that is I ask for you to make it a point each day. I am coming on, collecting all these things throughout the day, and I'm even selling my home right now, trying to get it so that we can get up in Iowa. And, you know, you guys are just so awesome, and I love you, and that's why this is such a selfless thing. It's so hard for somebody who knows they have answers that are great for humanity and the right ones, but they don't have the ability. They just do everything they can, and they hope and trust in humanity to see. And that's all we can do. So I ask you now, okay, to please do the same for our movement. Make the donations that you can, make the effort that you can, make the talk to your friends, share it. I've seen you guys been doing, I really appreciate it. I've seen many of you guys do that already, but we need to do that together as a team. Continue to share the message each day, and we'll continue to grow this message. And trust in God. trust in God, and trust in humanity, and trust in each other, but don't ever trust anybody more than you trust yourself, and love yourself first. That's just the truth. You can have a loving world. Everyone's loving, but you got to love yourself first. And that's just the way it is. And so what I'll be touching on too going on in the future is greed. Because with greed, what happens is we're killing our future. We're killing our kids' futures with our greed. We're not taking care of the problems that we need to deal with, like the Social Security. How can you even continue to have a Social Security when all these different plans they have, they're not having any way of paying for them? And if you look at the Republicans, they want tax cuts to the degree that you can't supply what you need to. Let me tell you, on these tax cuts, we've got a tax. And the thing about the tax is everybody gets a basic income out of that tax. Even people who ultimately are taxed, because they too would have relatives or people who would not be or would be on the income for all. And there's different ways to look at that as well, because with the advent of the technology and the new realm that we're bringing in, remember, this is all happening anyway. It's putting a name to it and ushering it in quicker and getting everybody to a happier place. I mean, they're talking about opening more factories and walking us backwards. So if this is where nature is taking us and we intervene to say we want to go back in time, I think that's really, really not a smart idea. And as president, I definitely wouldn't do that. We're forward thinking, and we want to go in the way of direction that makes humanity's lives easier and allows them to have health care for all, allows them to have an income and all that stuff, because it's just time. And we have to take care of people. Some of this stuff, it's just so simple. We have to take care of humanity, and there's a lot of programs and things that are not even there that need to be there, and there's a lot of programs that are there that are only there because of the greed system that causes all these other problems. You won't even need half of all that stuff. You don't even see how, in so many ways, so many problems are fixed when you just take care of humanity the right way. And we're going to end it on that level tonight. I'll see you back tomorrow night at 9 p.m. God bless you. Take care of your families. I am your happy healer for president. This is June 20th, and doggone it, we just got to try so hard. And not try, we got to do it. I told you our plan. We're doing it. We have got Iowa on our minds, New Hampshire. We've got goals and plans. You're part of them. Let's move forward.